On this episode of the Fast Lane Car, we mash up and review two brand spanking new German sedans. The BMW 228i versus the brand new Audi S3. Which one of these two is faster? Well, there's only one way to find out. A good old American drag race. We all know these cars aren't just about straight line speed. They're about finesse, they're about road handling, they're about going around a corner as fast as possible, and that's why we hand the keys to both cars to Indy race car driver Justin Wilson to take them around our test track. Which one is faster? You're going to find out today. Alright, so how did that feel? I got the number right here. You think it was faster or slower?
I'm going to say a little bit slower. It was...
Plus, I get the inside scoop on the cutting-edge design of the new Nissan Murano from who else but the guy who designed the car himself.
Yeah, so,
I don't see any big fins on there.
Yeah, thankfully, you know.
And I don't see those big lights, you know, that were reminiscent of the jet exhaust. So how have you interpreted that for a new era? And finally, Nathan takes the brand spanking new Jeep Renegade. This time the least expensive model of the sport, and gets it, well, you know what Nathan does, dirty, in another TFL off-road review.
Yep. A little bit of mud. It was nothing.
So, sit back, buckle up, and turn up the volume. The Fast Lane Car is on now. The best part of my job is that I get to compare cars that sometimes don't belong together. And this is a classic TFL mashup. Here we have the brand new 2015 Audi S3, and behind me, the 228i BMW. All-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, but they have one thing in common. They both have a 2-liter turbocharged engine. So let's see which of these two German rivals is faster on our TFL test track right here at IMI Motorsports, and that is coming up right now. Can you imagine getting 292 horsepower and 280 pound-foot of torque out of a 2-liter engine? Because that's exactly what this Audi S3 has. It's basically a souped-up GTI engine that's been put on steroids. And in this case, of course, it feeds all 4 wheels through Audi's Quattro system through a 6-speed S-tronic dual clutch transmission. It's a hell of a lot of power for a tiny engine. My gosh. Audi versus BMW. All-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. This may seem like a classic TFL mashup, but think about this. 2-liter turbo versus 2-liter turbo. Which one of these is faster in a straight line? Let's find out right now. Under the hood of this Beamer is also, voila, a 2-liter engine, a twin power turbo that puts out 240 horsepower and 255 pound-foot of torque. Now, unlike the Audi, all that power goes to the rear wheels via an 8-speed automatic with paddle shifters. There's also one other significant difference, and that is this car weighs 100 pounds less. just a huge amount of time from when you floor it to when it actually takes off. .108, there you have it, 108. My God, is he fast. I think if I were to do that, I'd be lucky to break 112 on such a tiny track. Hard to believe, 108. Now the question, of course, is, can the BMW do better?
Oh, you definitely feel that understeer. You can't challenge it too hard going into the corner, so you got to just be patient. A couple of times you try and flick it, see if you can get the rotation, just using the weight of the car, but you know, like I said, it's got a little bit of push, so that I think holds it back a touch. But it's fairly nippy. I mean, it gets going, you get some good speed up, you know, definitely throw it in there. So,
how are the brakes?
Brakes were great.
Brakes were great. Yeah, well, you know, it's a short track.
A short track. I mean, that's always, you know, my experience being one of the limits with the S3, the S4s was you'd wear out the brakes. They'd boil the fluid really fast, but you know, there was not even a smell or anything. So.
Let's blow it out here.
Oh, okay.
Go.
Nice. I like that a little bit more. You know, you can actually rotate the car. It's a nice, nimble little machine. Still a little bit of push, as you'd expect. I mean, all manufacturers do that these days because it's safer for the average road driving conditions, but that was nice. Back stood out a little bit on the power. In deep, in deep. Here we go. This is always a long sequence of corners. That less power, but what can it do on the lap time?
All right, so how did that feel? I got the number right here. You think it was faster or slower?
I'm going to say a little bit slower. It was 107.5, so a full second faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get the perfect lap in there. I made one mistake. You know, tried to turn in a little early and wash the front out. You feel a little bit less push with this car because it's rear-wheel drive as opposed to front-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive.
I mean, all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's lighter, it's a bit more nimble because it's just slightly smaller car. But I wouldn't know which one to choose. I mean, I love the power and the feel of the S4, but I love how nimble this little BMW is, you know, the way it'll turn in, respond. I don't know which one I would buy.
I'm a sucker for redheads, so if it were my money, I'd go with the S3. But here's a little caveat. I have driven the M version of that, or at least as close as you can get to it. And if that were the M version, I'd go for the BMW because that, besides the i8, is the very best BMW in the entire lineup. It kind of has the soul of what a BMW, in my opinion, should be, a straight 6.
Hi, I'm Ken Lees, Senior Creative Manager at Nissan Design America in San Diego. Yep.
You're the guy who designed this?
Yeah, part of a team, but
yeah?
yes.
Yeah, but you're kind of the man who heads up the team. And we're sitting inside the lounge, right, which is what you're calling the back seat of the Murano because it's cool and because it's raining outside. So let's talk about the interior first. Tell me, why is this a lounge?
Sure. So when we talked to the customers, we realized how much they loved driving the Muranos, and then they told us, this is not simply a selfish vehicle for the driver, but they enjoy the fact that they could take their friends in the back seat and enjoy the same kind of luxury as the front seats in the back. So we wanted to give the front and back the same priority. So therefore we have this social lounge concept where the design theme is pretty much emphasizing the width of the cabin and the spaciousness, and we have instrument panel that's pushed down low, and center console is very low and wide for open space feeling. And of course we have the panoramic roof to bring in the light, so it makes this a very inviting atmosphere and enjoyable place to be.
Now you said in your presentation that you actually took a Murano into the wine country.
Oh yeah,
and you use it the way that your customers might use it. Did that inspire you to kind of come up with this interesting and creative use of the back seat?
Yes, I mean, every time we start a new project, we tend to do this and do something that the customer would do. So in this case, it was going wine tasting, which great for us, good excuse to go on a trip like this. And when we do this, we basically just immerse ourselves in the customer's mindset and lifestyle and experience what they experience. And so that way we get the overall feeling and the flavor of what the vehicle should be. And so as we bring pen to paper and start sketching, this is all already kind of ingrained in our minds, what we need to design. So yeah, it was very helpful and fun.
And to make it comfortable, obviously, I see you've got heated seats back here, and you've got these NASA inspired, right? I'm doing the air quotes because I'm not sure. What does that mean, NASA inspired seats?
Basically, very comfortable seats. You feel weightless, and you know, long trips, no problem. I mean, this car is for road trips, so yeah, very comfortable.
So that's something that obviously is a big differentiator for Nissan, and you've got these seats throughout the lineup, not just in the Murano, but I think this is the first time you're using them in the back, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This car,
Howdy folks, Nathan Adlin here with the Fast Lane Car, and we have something special for you. Now behind me is the 2015 Jeep Renegade Sport. And the reason why it's special is because that's the base model. It's an entry-level vehicle. And with four-wheel drive, it starts at $19,995. Now this one is $23,000 because it has a small package with air and some other things, but for the most part, it's one of the cheapest all-wheel drive / four-wheel drive vehicles you're going to find, and we've already had an opportunity to take it off-road and do a little bit of rally driving, and you know what? Stay tuned and you'll find out how much fun it is. Now, from the back, you really can't tell that much except for the badging. And the badging would either say Sport or Latitude or Limited or Trailhawk. But when you move forward and look at the front end, then you can see definitely with the lower lip, it's entirely different, because if you look at the Trailhawk, you have two very bright red tow hooks, and there's a lot more room for approach angle. The rest of it, well, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, you're not looking at a vehicle that is exactly streamlined.
Like the engine snarls a little bit. It doesn't really, it's like it's not going to hurt you, but it's like an angry terrier. It's kind of cute. But spools up nicely. Not a big delay, but you really got to keep your foot in it. You really got to rev it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. How cliche, he's going to open the hood and blah, blah, blah. Actually, part of the story is the hood. This thing is incredibly lightweight. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure this is plastic underneath, but it's just extremely lightweight and, well, it's not flimsy, so that's kind of cool. They saved a lot of weight on this vehicle. This weighs over 600 pounds less than the Jeep Cherokee. Now, what do we have here? This is interesting because it's a 1.4 liter turbocharged multi-air. Great little engine because it puts out 160 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. This is hooked up to a 6-speed manual transmission and all four wheels. That's right. Unlike most automakers that do not allow you to have fun with all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive and a manual, you can get that with this. Isn't that cool? Now, it's not exactly what I would call a whisper quiet engine. It growls a little bit, actually kind of snorts a little bit, and I think that's cool. It's a very enjoyable power plant. And if you ever drove the Dodge Dart or the Fiat 500 or the Fiat 500L, a lot of them have this engine as well.
It's just honest and simple, you know what I mean? There's not a whole lot to do. Just two knobs, a couple buttons, no big deal. Air conditioning works good, you know?
Interior. Well, this is the base model, so you don't get leather, and there are a lot of little goodies that you don't get as well. But what you do get are some of these things. Minor decorations that enhance, according to Jeep, the interior to make it playful. Those are things that we call Easter eggs. I know you're getting sick of hearing that term, but that's what they use. And it is all over the interior of this vehicle and actually on some exterior parts as well. Fortunately, the seats are very comfortable. I've sat in every version and each one had good bolstering, pretty good support. And the only issue has been the headrest, which, at least for me, kind of gets in the way unless I'm slouching. And because I slouch all the time, it's not a big deal.
As it is, it's not bad. Off-road, and this is fairly challenging off-road. I've done some off-camber stuff on a lot of heavy, rutted, muddy, dirty, rocky roads. I hasn't had a problem with it. I'm trying not to sound like I'm kissing too much tush, but they made a really good car, and this is the base model. The only thing this has above the absolute base vehicle is all-wheel drive, which is actually a four-wheel drive system, and it has air conditioning package. That's it. That's all it's got. And now I'm going down an extremely steep hill in first gear. And hill descent control works great. Oh, that's my foot using the brake pedal. That's all you need to do. Ooh, mud. Andre told me not to get it too dirty. Screw it. He'll get over it. Just hope I get through it. And, yep. A little bit of mud. It was nothing. And that's the thing. I mean, you're in a vehicle that doesn't have all the electronic aids and goodies and gizmos and gearing that the Trailhawk has, but you still have a very capable system that gets you out of trouble. Believe me, going through a little muddy rut is usually not a big deal in a four-wheel drive vehicle, but in a car, it's easy to get stuck.
Don't fall into the trap that I fell into. There's nothing down here. Basically, you have the light that shines on this. Down here is where you unlatch the back, and voila. You have 18.5 cubic feet of space behind the rear seats. And then if you fold the seats down, and this one is just 60-40, by the way. We talked about earlier in another video how it was 40-40-20. Well, in this case, just 60-40. Anyway, you fold these down and then you have 50.8 cubic feet of cargo space. That's pretty impressive. By the way, you're able to fold down the passenger seat as well for long road trips.
It has, I like the sight lines. It's so easy to see up and over this hood. And then it's relatively easy to figure out where the bumper is because it's such a square front end. You can just see up and over. And
back seat space is plentiful, especially for a car this size. With my big boy shoes on, I am 6'1", and this seat is set for me. And I'm able to fit behind myself with pretty good room. More importantly, tons of headroom, and my big feet are able to fit underneath this seat. Now, because this is a 60-40 split, and you can also get a 40-40-20 split in other versions, this has just enough space to put in 2 kid seats, and there's just enough room here to put in a child safety seat in the center. That's kind of cool.
but the seats are comfortable. The steering wheel is quite nice even though it's not leather wrapped. And the rest of the vehicle feels just as good as the Limited I recently drove.
They are pretty damn sure they're going to get well over 30 miles per gallon on the highway, but that's all they could tell us for sure. So you'll have to wait for actual mileage to come out, and we'll definitely have it on our website, TFLcar.com. Now, in terms of competition, well, you're looking at a vehicle that does compete with the Subaru XV, and then, of course, the Subaru Forester. It kind of competes with both of them at a certain level. And then you go to other vehicles like, of course, the Nissan Juke, and to a lesser extent, the Kia Soul, only based on price. But I can say this, very few vehicles have a turbocharged engine, all-wheel drive, and a manual transmission. And that kind of gives this car a snap in its step. I really do like driving it, and I think you will too. For the Fast Lane Car, this is Nathan Adlin. Don't forget to go to TFLcar.com for news, views, and real-world reviews. Ciao. For those of you who are very erect, if you're Roman, you have the hair, and you're sitting like this with your teeth, yeah, you probably won't be as comfortable.